Welcome everyone to the show, Combustible Elements, real talk for real people. Here we try to put different ideas and perspectives together in a pot, heat it up, and get an explosion of knowledge and understanding. We understand that problems can only be fixed starting from the bottom to the top, building a great foundation for change and improvement. I'm Big Mel, and I'm joined by Ruben, aka the Monarch, and Aaron, the Hitman.
I want to thank everybody again for joining us for Combustible Elements. We've been sporadically back and forth for the last couple weeks, but you got to remember, life happens. Just three dudes with families and jobs, so things happen. You know what I mean? Changes happen, but we always want to be back. So we're back this week, and we want to thank you for joining us first and foremost. I want to say, if you like the content, like and subscribe you to the end. If you got some ideas, stuff you want to talk about, stuff that you may be helpful to you, and you want to give us something that we can look at and dive into, yeah, give it to us. We out there on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and you can always comment underneath this video. Leave an email, whatever. We'll get back to you. That's what we do. This particular time, we're talking about how the pandemic affected education and the job market, because it did have an effect on it. So this is a good topic because we have a lot of graduations going on right now. So this is a great topic. So I'm going to lead off this topic. Usually I let other people lead off when it was their topic, but I'm going to lead off with this topic because it's something that really pissed me off. When the pandemic first hit, my daughter was coming home on Easter break at Penn State's campus, and she never went back at all. She came home, everything shut down, school shut down, State College shut down, Happy Valley, whatever you want. State College, though, people call it Happy Valley, but it all shut down. She didn't even have a graduation. All that hard work, dean's list, all the stuff that she put into it. I can't even think of the last major project, but the people that went to Penn State will know what I'm talking about. It's the last major project that they got to do to guarantee their graduation. And it's a big part of it. All of that was completed, but she never went back. All she got was a video and a congratulations. You had a keynote speaker on the video, and you had everybody at each college saying congratulations. Now, me as a father, all that time, all that hard work, most of the kids that said they didn't really want a graduation, they wanted that, and they earned that. And the pandemic affected that, and it affected that for kids throughout the nation. Now, some schools that's not Penn State had graduations later on where they called the students back, so you could walk that out, family can come, and this and that. So it did have a major factor on education on all levels. I'm just bitching about the college level. What about the high school level, the grade school level, where kids had to homeschool? It had an effect on it, and we're going to learn many things from it. But I just wanted to start off with that particular point because I'm bitching. I wanted to see my daughter walk down the aisle. Okay, so how do you feel about it, Eric?
I mean, well, that's a good point and a different perspective, because like we got kids that's different ages. So like you said, your daughter was in college and that affected her in a different way. And for me, I have younger kids. And like you said, when they got out of school because of the pandemic, they was doing virtual learning. And I know it was like a big trend. I don't have TikTok, but like you see TikToks, they're everywhere, even like the YouTube shorts and stuff like that, where parents will videotape their kids like it's funny and they're not paying attention in class. They doing something completely different, eating cereal, doing something disrespectful to the teacher. And it's like, that was going on throughout the whole pandemic. And it's crazy because nobody was, I'm not gonna say nobody, but the level of education that our kids was getting in grade school level is not what we were expecting our kids to get, no matter, depending on what school they go to. If it's not a public school, even some public schools, you feel like your kids should be getting a top grade education. But when I was coming out of high school, that's when the education system was going downhill. But for our kids to be out of school and to be in front of laptops all day, trying to learn the things that they need to learn and not getting the individual attention or the attention that they would get in the actual school setting. I feel like that, I mean, I can't say that our kids were cheated out of an education, out of the education that they should have been getting, especially if we have our kids in certain schools where we have them in those schools because we care about their academics.
Ruben?
So I'm gonna go crazy on this one, but I actually enjoyed the pandemic. It was a well-needed rest for me. You know, financially, it didn't suit me well, but it also allowed me to reset. You know, it allowed my kids to appreciate, you know, going to school, because you know, my kids don't live that far from the school is not that far from where we live. They could walk, but you know, I take them to school every morning, and you know, when you got to get up early, go to school and get dressed and get out of the house, you know, they can kind of drag, and it's like, I don't want to go. But now it's like, okay, well, you know what? You're not going. You can't go. It's closed. It's shut down. You got to do it at home. You got to sit at this table, and you got to figure this out here. When things opened back up, it made them appreciate, like, yo, you know what? I don't want to be home all day. I like being able to go outside. I like being able to go be in the classroom. And like you say, you know, if you put your kids in private school and things like that, where like you're expecting, you know, a certain level of education and a certain level of attention and a certain level of attention to details for each classroom, you know, a lot of people started realizing like, yo, you're paying thousands of dollars a month for absolutely nothing. You know, unfortunately, you know, that 5, 6, 7,000 that you're paying a month, it's not going where you think it was going to. Especially in the case of someone like Mel, you know, we got somebody that was in college. Now, luckily for him, his daughter was, you know, on her last year. Unfortunately, she didn't get a chance to walk. But imagine you sending your kids off to school and they were freshmen, and then, you know, you're paying $20,000, $30,000 a year, and then you're hearing some of the stuff that they got going on in their college class. And it's like, wait, this is what the hell I'm paying all this money for? Like this archaic mindset, this archaic, you know, institution. All this money that I'm taking out every year, every month, it's not even worth the price of admission for real.
Okay, so I thought you were gonna keep on going. I'll put my coffee down for a second and dive into this. First thing I want to say
Thought about
is,
it, but I figure I'll give you a chance to talk.
Yeah. Okay, so first off, if this would have happened when my daughter was a little bit younger in high school, because I was that parent that was paying more in high school for tuition than I was in college, believe it or not, because her own hard work, not anything special I did, but I was paying more for in high school than I was in college. So this would have been disastrous. I'm not even gonna lie, with the pandemic, you staying at home and I'm paying thousands of dollars really in hard cash, and then I get to see what you're doing, it opens up your eyes. But now it's a double-edged sword. In reality, we know that the history of the world, until we came up with this education system in the last, 150, 200 years, where people learned to trade or people learned stuff from their parents and it was passed down. So it was virtually like homeschooling. And opposed to, we have government schooling, because there's a government plan that goes along as standards that they have to teach. So each state, national standards, so it's government education. So it's a double-edged sword. Like you two said, you're looking at what your kids have for work and you're saying to yourself, this is all they do during the course of the day. And the other portion of it is, your kids are probably going to do the work a little bit better with the parent than with the kid. I mean, with the teacher, because they know they can't play around with the parent. You know what I'm saying? Now, some families might be different, but just knowing y'all two, they got to do the work with you two. I'm just using you two as an example because I don't know how other households work, but they know they got to do it with you two. And then now you're finding out that, okay, when they actually do the work, they have a hell of a lot of free time. I'm gonna assume I'm right in that from that analysis, as I analyze it from my perspective for you two, y'all was looking like, this is all they doing. They're done by like 12 o'clock if they dedicated in doing their work. They got a whole damn day or even sooner. So that was a double-edged sword. Like I believe in homeschooling too, because I think a child sometimes can learn more from a parent than having to like have a protocol for teaching spread over like 30 kids, and 30 is being generous, to be quite honest. And then there's another aspect of it. If you're a hardworking parent, and we know how our economy is, if you want more, you got to be a hardworking parent. And it's probably two parents that have to work. So you don't get to see what your kid is doing as far as the education. It's not like before when you had one parent, as soon as they got home, they went through all their shit. It's not like that. So you have to have trust that the kid is telling you everything and doing what they're supposed to be doing, because by the time you check on it, weeks or maybe months may have passed, or you wait till you hear a bad report and then you start checking on it because of the financial gains in this world. So when Ruben said it was good for him because of the time off, because of what he had to do, I empathize with that. And I understand that, because when you got to go back and forth, pick your kids up, go to work, this and that, you have to trust those institutions. You didn't have to trust those institutions. So how did you feel, not just in that traveling, but actually knowing what was going on? Was there a turning point or a tipping point for you too, where you said to yourselves, you know something, this is the best thing because I know exactly what my kid is doing in school, exactly what they're doing every day?
I know for me, I appreciate my kids' school a lot. Like the teachers, you know, the whole system that they got over there. And one of the reasons why we left Philly to move into the area that we live in, to be in that school district, was because there was to set them up to be better, you know, in the school, in better school system, in a better school district than what Philly was. And fortunately, unlike the Philadelphia school district, my kids already had iPads from kindergarten. The minute they start off in kindergarten over there, each kid gets assigned an iPad. So they were already better prepared to do virtual school than, you know, a lot of the public school counterparts, even though where they're at is a public school, but it's not a city public school. It's in the county, it's in the suburbs. So you got that aspect of it. And then the teachers, you know, they were also, they were able to transition onto online teaching, I feel like, easier than some of the public school students, because now, granted, with a lot of the teachers, they got kids also, and you know, now they got to teach, and they got their kids in the background, and trying to do double duty of being a parent and a teacher at the same time. That part of it was definitely not, you know, fun for anybody. But it's just watching from standing there and listening to what was going on in the class, and hearing, you know, the different things, and the different assignments, and allowing the kids to essentially like figure things out throughout the whole ordeal. I appreciated it. You know, I felt like it helped my kids find a new respect for the teachers and for the curriculum, and for school, and for being outside, and for taking things for granted. It helped me, you know, rest and enjoy my backyard, and being able to like just take the time to give my body time to heal after all these years of standing up and going back and forth. So where a lot of people got, unfortunately, you know, bad results from it, I took a lot of good out of it.
Aaron?
So I wouldn't say like, for me, like Ruben said, I like my kids' school. We put them in that school for a reason. So they don't go to a public school. But at the same time, it's like what was happening, what I noticed was happening is they have to cater to the people who aren't getting the work as fast as the other students. So if you're getting the work, you still have to repeat the same work because everybody in the class isn't getting it. So it may not be the same exact problem or the same exact page, but it's the same exact work. Like you're not progressing as fast as you would if you were in the school, because when you're in the school, they have centers where they could take those kids out and have tutors for them in order for them to catch them up. But when you were online, they didn't have that. Like, it was no way for you to break out separately online in order for you to have those tutors, in order for the class to keep progressing, and then that the other students be able to catch up. So that was like one of the biggest downfalls that I felt like was going on. Because again, if everybody's, and not saying that, you know, my boys was the ones that was catching the work real fast, but like, if everybody else is catching the work and my boys might not be catching the work, that means the whole class is at a standstill, looking like they moving, like basically on a treadmill, looking like you're going somewhere, but you're in the same spot. And then if that's near the end of the year, then of course, not saying that you know, teachers do it maliciously, but it's like, why try to advance the class if, you know, it's like a month left in school? Like, we might as well coast it, which would I felt like was happening, you know, near the end of the pandemic. And then going into the new year, where everybody thought they was going back to school, but then everybody was back out of school, and all that was happening. It was kind of like repetitive. So it was pros and cons. And like Ruben said, it gives the kids their appreciation. Like, oh, well, you know, I miss my friends. I miss, you know, having that morning routine where I go in and we sit down and have breakfast, and then we get to have recess, and we don't get to run around no more. Now we sitting in front of the computer all day. And then our only break time is going downstairs to the kitchen to see mom and dad there. And like, they telling us what to do. We got to go back up in our room. Like, it's no fun. Like, it took the fun out of it. So I think, you know, the kids do learn a new appreciation for it, but it also, one thing that a lot of parents or people didn't talk about, and if they have, I just haven't heard it, but the depression and anxiety that kids got from just sitting in front of a computer all day. And then the unlimited access to the internet that they had from these computers all day. And so when they got back in school, like, people's temperament and mentality and the way that they act towards each other was completely different than when they were socializing together on a daily basis.
Okay, so you know why I'm smiling, right? The
Why?
first thing I'm gonna say is, nah, you meant it. Your kids was getting to work, and you was kind of like patting yourself in the back in the seat without patting yourself in the back. It's okay to say your kids was getting to work. It's all right, bro. All
I
right.
mean, some things they get, some things they don't, you know.
No, it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. We are all not the same. We had this discussion before. It's all right, bro. All right. That's the first thing. Second thing is, you're right. People don't socialize the right way. You know what I mean? Like, the kids need to interact with each other. We have so many kids now that don't even know the proper responses to things, like saying thank you, you're welcome. Like, they don't say thank you because they're rude. They don't say thank you because they never saw a point for it or learned a point from it. Because most of the stuff that we do in life is internalized, and they learn it from interaction with each other. So they're not learning how to socialize on another level compared to what we learned in our generations, how to socialize. And it's even worse. And then now you put the pandemic in it, and it's going to be repercussions for it. So I agree with you with the socializing, anxiety and depression and not having time. And then there's also the factor, you got some horrible households where the kids want to go to school every day just to get out the midst of those households. Like, people not talking about that, but that's the truth. Like, there are kids that they go to school every damn day because their house situation is just that bad, and they want to get the hell out of there for whatever reason. We're not going to get into that right now, but one day we are going to get into that because it's real. It's a real topic. But we're going to talk to the second part about this, the job market. And this is a good segue into it because, you know, a lot of teachers aren't going to be teachers after the pandemic. A lot of them already left. Why? Because they had time to go home. While they were sitting around teaching these classes on the computer, they was taking breaks looking at what jobs were available when they qualified. They would sit down there thinking to themselves, maybe being outside the classroom is much, much better than being inside the classroom. See, that's the one thing that we don't do in our society. A lot of times people don't have time to think. Now that you have people having time to think, it made them say, I'm gonna take risk. I think I wanted to move down there. Now I'm thinking that's the best move for me. So I'm gonna go get a different job someplace else, and then I'm gonna move. So now the job market is just fluctuated and affected in so many ways. And what do you guys think about the job market right now? Because they're saying there aren't no jobs, and then they're saying there's not enough people that want to work. But I believe that there's a lot of people that changed locations, and a lot of people that was close to retiring or figured that they could not do what they were doing because they could handle it financially. Remember, those supermarkets a lot of times didn't have enough food. So you learn to eat less. You didn't have to go to these stores all the time where you didn't have to think about the money you were spending. Now you're like, yo, I don't have to waste that money on this shit. I do this. Instead of buying them sodas, I buy me a pack of no packs to make my own Kool-Aid or some shit like that, a lemonade or something like that. So people learn to survive the pandemic, and it's going to have ramifications on the job market. So what do you guys think about that? What's going on in the job market right now, or how you perceive what's going on?
Well, one thing that you said a little while ago was like the education system really just started booming a little bit over 100 years ago. Everything that was back then was trade passed down, and like that's kind of like now that's what everything is. It's like you need an education to have a trade, and it's like no, like that's not how it was before. Like trades was passed down. People built businesses. Like people didn't have college educations to build businesses back then.
Can I cut you off for a second? I just want to specify, when I say education started booming in the last 150, 200 years, I want to specify for the common people. The rich always had their systems of schools and stuff where they learn stuff, but just to include the common people. I'm sorry, so go ahead.
Right, but I'm saying like the businesses that are here now that have been lasting for 100 years, 150 years, you know, they doing the celebrations and stuff, like they didn't come from like I'm not going to say they weren't educated, but they didn't have to have a master's degree in order to start a business. It was like trades and stuff. But to your point where you said people were saying, you know, there's no jobs out here. It is plenty of jobs out here because so many people was laid off, and now companies are trying to rehire people, and so many people don't want to work anymore because they had so many what was those stimulus checks that they got. It was so many reasons why you didn't have to work. You was getting unemployment. You was making more money on unemployment than you were having a real job. So people was forcing themselves into unemployment and then getting those stimulus checks and then using their kids for the bonuses and all that type of crazy things. And then now people are finding other ways to work around the system where they don't have to work a job. It's jobs out here, like down here in Florida, it's like delivery jobs for like a Pizza Hut is like almost $12, like to deliver pizzas. I remember when you was delivering pizzas, working off of tips. Like now you delivering pizzas is like making $12 an hour to deliver a pizza. Is crazy.
I mean, is it really crazy? I think the concept of driving around delivering people pizza and just waiting and hoping for tips is crazy. Not so much paying somebody a wage, you know, where they can live off of. Because at the end of the day, the shortage of jobs is not really so much a shortage of jobs, it's a shortage of jobs that pay people a livable wage. Like the concept of working 2-3 jobs is ridiculous. No one should have to be working 2-3 jobs in order to make ends meet. You're not making any more money because you're working 2-3 jobs. You're making 2-3 jobs because your first job is not paying you nowhere near enough. Now you got to work a second job so you could cover what the first job's not doing. And if you're working 2 jobs, then you're just running on a treadmill.
So what's a livable wage?
Whatever pays you an adequate amount where you can provide housing for yourself, you can be able to eat, you know, and you could be able to, you know, properly sustain yourself without having to depend on anybody else, to depend on the government. Because at the end of the day, that number is going to fluctuate based on what city or state that you live in. You know, a livable wage for New York is not going to be the same thing for Philadelphia. A livable wage for Philadelphia is not going to be the same thing for Florida. A livable wage for Florida is not going to be the same thing for California or Texas. Each of those different states have different, you know, costs for, you know, housing, for food, for gas, for all these things that you need when you live in the United States in order for you to provide for yourself and take care of yourself and take care of your family if you have one. Like, realistically, every single field was affected in the pandemic, whether that be barbering, whether that be carpentry, whether that be electrician, whether that be tech, all of them were affected. Some of them were affected in a positive way. Some of them were affected in a negative way. But all of them were affected in one way or another. Now, if you work in the tech industry, you've been working on a computer this whole time. You know I got a couple of friends working in tech, and now they had the opportunity to work 2-3 jobs. So now you got somebody that, you know, if you work in tech and you're working in California, you can make 100,000 plus, you know, working one job. If you're working 3 jobs and you're making 100,000 from each job, and they're working this all at the same time because, you know, it's not required. It's not required, you know, for you to necessarily clock in to do the job. You just gotta you got a specific assignment that you gotta do, and you got a time frame you gotta do it for. And as long as you turn it in within that time frame, you go on and work on the next project. Now, doing that is a ridiculous burn rate. So you're gonna sit there and you try to do all this. It's not sustainable.
Okay.
But you know, if you're not in the tech field and you work in a regular job and you're not making, you know, the 6 figures or whatever starting salary, now you got to you find yourself working in a supermarket. You got to work 10 hours because there's nobody else that's coming in to take your shift. Even if you're only supposed to be working 8, you still got a kid you got to take care of. Like, people got to get paid a livable wage.
Okay, so I'm going to answer, or I'm going to give my comments to both things that you just said, and then we're going to go to our final question. To what Aaron was saying, I agree with Ruben. Wages make a difference. A lot of these places, they didn't have people. And what did they do when they started to have people? They started to need people. They gave out signing bonuses. They raised the money. So that tells me that they could have did that before. That tells me that they understand that the job that they had people working, they were underpaid. And that's a factor. Now, as far as unemployment goes, unemployment, we look at the stimulus, and depending on what state you were in, you may not have got a stimulus because the governors had to approve it. And at one point they turned it off in certain states because they were like, we're not giving you that money because we think you're not going to work. So they cut it off. And they'll also remember that there is a time frame for unemployment. In Pennsylvania, is 26 weeks normally, unless it's an emergency. So 26 weeks, that's half the year. And then you're off of it. You better go find something that you're not getting no extra money nowhere. Also, to Aaron's point, childcare. If the schools ain't open and you're a single parent, well, what the hell you gonna do? Like, somebody needs to be home with their kids. And if you don't have help, what are you gonna do? That portion wasn't really provided during this pandemic when they came up with all these rules. And the last thing I'm gonna say about Aaron is, listen, if I'm a Pizza Hut driver, you need to be paying me some money because delivery drivers get robbed and killed all the time. And you're taking a risk because Pizza Hut is one of those places where you can order and then pay in cash. It ain't like DoorDash or Uber Eats where you just drop the shit at the door and keep it moving. So now, and it's not a paper trail like it is with those things. Like, they know who called for it. So if you turn up missing, they know who the fuck to go looking for, and they can trace where you was at last before, you know, the end came. Pizza Hut, they kill you. They may not know what's going on until you don't come back for an hour or two. So that's my only thing. They need to be paying more money for that. To Ruben, and this is going to fall into the financial portion of it. You're right, a livable wage. Wherever you at, you got to have enough money to live. I think I heard in New Jersey and New York, if you're not making $35 an hour, you're just fucked. Bottom line, I just read an article on CNN about 2 weeks ago, and it was like $35.21. And I was looking like, damn, that should be a good living. But in some places, California, New York, you living in the hood, bro, Spanish Harlem, like, you gonna have a problem. So where you live dictates what the wages you need to bring in. And those places that you work for should adjust your wages for where you live as far as the state or the city, may not each county. I don't want to get into all that. And then also we have to remember that even if you got a wage increase or you make good wages, in the last 4 decades, inflation is the highest it's been. So we're dealing with inflation in the last 4 decades higher than it's ever been at the rate that it's going. And that's a drawback from the pandemic because businesses know they could charge you more to get supplies. And maybe they were telling the truth from the beginning, you couldn't get supplies. But once they saw that you were going to pay it, they wasn't going to bring down the damn price. You know what I mean? If anything, the price was going to go up more. See where the deadline is, the crescent to that point is. So inflation is a part of it. So these wages need to be on par with inflation. Now, this is going to be a quick question. We probably all got a minute left. I can't really say who's to blame. What I'm really going to say is, from the job market and education, what is the one singular most important thing that you guys learned from? So let's go Aaron first.
Starts at the house. like Ruben said, you know, even the education, like, you know, helping your kids in school, whether they learning what the teachers are teaching them or not, like it's still up to us to, you know, help further their education along. Like you said, you helped your daughter is very intelligent. That's what Mel was saying, but you know, it comes from somewhere and it starts in the house. And then going out into the real world where, you know, they're looking for jobs and things like that. Ruben has a trade, an amazing trade that everybody's always going to need. Everybody's going to need a haircut. So teaching,
I need one now.
teaching your kids to understand that a trade is always good to have under their belt. You can't always rely on the education system to help you throughout life. Having a trade is something that is going to be very valuable. So again, it all starts in the house.
Okay, Ruben.
I'm gonna have to agree with Aaron, man. You gotta blame the parents on this one. I think, but it comes down to, you know, fundamentals. Kids are gonna do what they do mostly based on approximation. So if they're close to their parents, if they're close to the grandparents, whatever that tribe, whatever the close tribe that child has, that's how they're gonna act and react and interact. That's where they're gonna learn a lot of their faults. That's where they're gonna learn a lot of their positive. That's where they're gonna learn, you know, how to become positive members of society. So definitely starts at home.
Okay, I asked him what he learned the most, and he threw in the parents. Like, y'all guys, y'all tripping, man. Okay, what I learned the most out of this whole situation was flexibility. You can never have enough foreknowledge. You can never prepare. No matter what savings you had, it was affected with this pandemic. No matter what plans you made for retirements, it was affected this pandemic. Education was affected this pandemic. What I learned the most is continue to be flexible, continue to look at situations and then judge it for the situation, not what you want the situation to be. So flexibility is the number one thing that I learned in all this. Now, I want to thank everybody for joining us on Combustible Elements. Like I said in the beginning, we out there, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Aaron act like he didn't know that, but we on TikTok too. We out here. Comment, like, subscribe. If you got something you want to say, listen, any platform, even in the comments, say what's on your mind. We'll get back to you. We'll talk about it. Let's help each other grow. Thank everybody for joining us. I'm Big Mel. I'm joined by Ruben the Monarch, Aaron the Hip Man. Thank you. I look forward to talking to you later. Peace out.